You've probably heard of Kegel exercises before. Maybe you even tried them once or twice, shrugged and thought, this isn't doing anything. But what if I told you that doing just one specific Kegel move every day for 7 days could radically change the way your body feels, moves, and even performs, both inside and out? This isn't just some trendy TikTok hack or recycled fitness advice. What you're about to see is something thousands are now swearing by. Yet hardly anyone is doing right. And that's where everything changes. Because in this story, you're going to meet someone just like you. Tired of trying everything, skeptical of shortcuts, and secretly wondering, will anything ever really work for me? And when they committed to this one tiny move, for just 1 week, the results weren't just surprising, they were borderline unbelievable. But this isn't about hype. This is about unlocking something in your own body you didn't even know you had the power to control. Now let me ask you this, why did you click this video? Was it curiosity, hope, frustration, maybe even desperation? Whatever it was, that feeling, that itch to finally figure out the truth, that's exactly what we're diving into. I'm not here to throw jargon at you or repeat what every so-called expert online is already saying. I'm here to guide you through something real, something raw, something that most people don't talk about until they've gone through it themselves. And if you stick with me until the very end, I promise you'll get the answer that brought you here in the first place. Not just what happens after 7 days of this Kegel exercise, but why it works, who it works for, and how to unlock the full power of this often overlooked technique in ways you've never even imagined. You're not just going to watch a story, you're going to feel it. Right in your gut. Right where change begins. So whether you're here because you're chasing better results from your workouts, trying to improve your core strength, fix embarrassing issues like bladder control, or just curious if Kegels can actually impact your confidence, your posture, and yes, even your sex life, you're in the right place. And by the time this story ends, you'll know exactly what happens when you commit to this one strange but powerful routine. But here's the thing, what starts as a simple body experiment quickly spirals into something way bigger. 'Cause on day 3, something unexpected happens. And that's where everything takes a turn no one saw coming. You said. On the morning of day 1, she stood in front of the mirror, uncertain. Her reflection looked no different. Same posture, same tired eyes, same slight tension in her lower back she'd been ignoring for years. She wasn't someone who chased fads or got pulled in by viral YouTube challenges, but something about this one felt different. The video didn't promise a six-pack or a miracle overnight. Promised connection, to your core, to your breath, to a part of yourself that most people forget even exists. Pelvic floor. A term she barely thought about, let alone trained. But she couldn't shake what she heard. Do this Kegel exercise for 7 days. You'll be shocked at the results. It was bold, vague, tempting. So she set a timer, dropped into a quiet seated position, closed her eyes and began. First it felt like nothing. Squeeze. Release. Was she even doing it right? How could something so small possibly lead to anything big? But the deeper she breathed, the more she noticed something subtle, an awareness in her body she hadn't felt in years. Not just in her core, but in how she sat, how she held tension in her jaw, how her breath never seemed to drop below her chest. For the rest of the day, she walked differently. Not dramatically, but with this quiet buzz under the surface. Like her body was listening. Or maybe waking up. She didn't tell anyone what she was doing. Not yet. Part of her wanted to prove it to herself first. Another part didn't want to explain something she barely understood yet. But as day 1 turned into day 2, and she stuck with the practice, following every cue, every breath, something started to shift. It wasn't just physical. Yes, she was noticing her posture improving and less pressure in her lower back. But the real change was internal. Her focus sharpened. She felt calmer, more present, almost like her body was syncing up with her mind for the first time in years. It was strange how something as simple as a focused Kegel exercise could ripple through the rest of her life. She started sleeping better. Cravings began to fade. Even her workouts felt different. Stronger, more stable, like she finally had a true foundation beneath everything she did. But that's not where the story really begins. The real shift came on day 3. That morning started just like the others. Early, quiet, intentional. But midway through the exercise, she felt something unexpected. A warmth, almost like energy, rising from her pelvis up through her spine. It wasn't painful or uncomfortable, just intense. Her breathing caught. She opened her eyes, heart racing. It passed after a few seconds, but it left her unsettled, intrigued. Later that day, while at work, she found herself staring off mid-meeting, her thoughts circling back to that sensation. She wanted to write it off, pretend it was nothing. But part of her knew better. Something had been triggered. Something dormant. What she didn't know, what she couldn't know, was that across the city, a man she'd never met was experiencing the exact same thing. He wasn't doing the same challenge. In fact, he hadn't even heard of Kegels until a physical therapist suggested them after a lower back injury. Strengthen your core from the inside out, she said. Trust me, it's more than just crunches. Skeptical but desperate, he followed the instructions, downloading a beginner Kegel app and committing to the routine. On his third day, the same strange wave of energy hit him mid-session. He paused, confused, then doubled over. Not in pain, but in something that felt almost like grief. Or maybe release. Memories he hadn't thought about in years bubbled up, uninvited. The injury. The breakup. His dad's voice, yelling across the house when he was 10. All of it tangled into that one breath, that one clench and release. He shook it off, returned to his day. But nothing felt the same afterward. Unbeknownst to both of them, a silent thread now connected their experiences. Not because they knew each other. Not because of fate or destiny. But because the body stores what the mind forgets. And unlocking it, even through something as deceptively simple as a pelvic floor exercise, can awaken more than just muscle. Can unlock memory, emotion, trauma. And the body doesn't lie. It only waits for you to listen. As the week unfolded, their stories continued separately but eerily in sync. She began journaling almost obsessively after each session. Not about the exercise itself but what it brought up. Forgotten dreams, sensations, even people. Her ex from 5 years ago who always made her feel small. The time she nearly passed out during a high school recital because she was holding her breath without realizing it. All of it started flooding back, unfiltered. Meanwhile, he found himself researching more. Not just pelvic health, but somatic therapy, body-based healing, and breathwork. He stumbled across a podcast where someone described Kegels as emotional CPR. He laughed at first, but then remembered what he felt on day 3. That's when things got even stranger. She began having vivid dreams, visceral, emotional, symbolic. A recurring one where she was underwater, sinking slowly, until something grabbed her from below and pulled her upward. She'd wake up gasping, shaken, but never scared. It felt like her subconscious was clearing space, or making space, for what she didn't know. Around the same time, she started noticing small glitches in her day-to-day life. A coworker finishing her sentence before she spoke. A random playlist that seemed to mirror her mood. She chalked it up to coincidence. But the frequency grew. As if something beyond her awareness was syncing with her reality. He noticed it too. One evening, while on a walk, he swore he saw someone from his childhood sitting across the street. A neighbor who'd died years ago. It wasn't him, of course. Just someone who looked like him. But the sight triggered a flood of emotion. That night, he found himself searching his old neighborhood on Google Earth, tracing every block, every memory. Something was calling him back, through his body, through this simple exercise. But to what? By day 5, their experiences escalated. She could feel her heartbeat in her lower belly, like a quiet drumbeat reminding her she was alive. Fully. Presently. She walked with more confidence, more ease, but also a strange sense of anticipation, like she was preparing for something she couldn't yet name. Meanwhile, his back pain was gone. Completely. But what replaced it was something even more confusing. A sense of urgency. Not panic. Just this low hum beneath the surface, urging him to keep going. To go deeper. As if the exercise was just the beginning of a bigger unraveling. At this point they still hadn't crossed paths. But their stories were no longer isolated. They were part of a pattern. A quiet trend bubbling beneath the surface of fitness culture, health challenges, and wellness YouTube. Comments began appearing under videos. I thought I was just doing Kegels, but something changed. Anyone else feel emotional doing this? This feels like more than just a core workout. One woman mentioned reconnecting with her body after years of disassociation. Another claimed she stopped having anxiety attacks after 3 days of consistent pelvic floor work. No one had definitive answers. But the stories kept stacking. And so did the mystery. For her, day 6 brought the strangest moment yet. Midway through the exercise, she burst into tears. No trigger. No sadness. Just a sudden, overwhelming release. She didn't try to stop it. She let it move through her, and when it was done, she felt light. Not happy. Not euphoric. But grounded. Like something heavy had finally been set down. She looked in the mirror again, and this time the reflection did look different. Not physically but energetically. Her eyes were clearer. Her jaw softer. Her posture open. She wasn't becoming someone new. She was becoming herself. And him. On day 6 he met someone. Not romantically. Just a stranger in a coffee shop who complimented his energy. Said he looked centered. He'd never heard that before. But somehow it made sense. They struck up a conversation about meditation, the nervous system, and yes, pelvic floor exercises. Turns out she was a yoga therapist. Most people don't realize how much the body remembers, she said. Especially here. Pointing to her lower belly. It's the body's power center. Once you start accessing it, things shift. He walked away with her number. Not romantically. Just in case he wanted to learn more. But something about the encounter felt guided. Neither of them knew yet what day 7 would bring. But whatever it was, it wouldn't just be about muscle tone or bladder control or fitness results. It would be about unlocking a part of themselves that had been waiting, silently, for years. A part that was ready now. Ready to heal. Ready to rise. But when that 7th day came, what they uncovered wasn't just personal. It was connected. And what they found? Well, that's where the story takes a turn no one, not them, not you watching, will see coming. You said. On the 7th day, everything shifted. Not subtly, not gradually, but like a door had been kicked open from the inside. She woke up before her alarm, heart pounding, breath already deep and steady like she'd been running in her dreams. Her body felt wired but not anxious. More like electric. Like something was about to happen. She didn't reach for her phone. She didn't scroll. She just sat on the edge of her bed, palms on her thighs, grounding herself before beginning the exercise for what was supposed to be the final time. But this time it didn't feel like a routine. Felt like a ritual. Like everything she had released, everything she had been waking up inside herself, was coming to a head. As she began to engage the movement, slow, intentional, connected, she felt that now familiar surge again, the warmth moving up from her pelvis into her ribcage, her heart, even the base of her skull. It wasn't frightening anymore. Felt necessary. But then, just as she reached the final breath of the final rep, everything in her body locked. Still, alert, frozen in place, as if some invisible energy had wrapped around her spine and whispered, "Listen." And hundreds of miles away, at the exact same moment, he was in the middle of a jog, not even thinking about the challenge anymore. He hadn't planned on doing the Kegel session that morning. He thought he might take a break, just for one day. But mid-stride, that same pulse hit him like a jolt of awareness. He stopped running. Stood there in the middle of the sidewalk, surrounded by passing commuters and cars, and felt his breath drop straight into his gut. That sensation was back. Not just warmth. Not just energy. Something more primal. He closed his eyes, placed a hand over his abdomen, and held it there, tuning in. That's when he heard it. Not an actual voice, but a message that arrived in the back of his mind like a dream you remember only when it's time. You're not the only one. He opened his eyes. Looked around. Nobody was watching. But the message lingered. He didn't know what it meant. That night, as she scrolled through comments on the original video, the one that started it all, she noticed something new. A fresh thread posted just minutes earlier. Is anyone else experiencing strange dreams after this? Like the same dream. Underwater, something pulling you up. Her breath caught. Her fingers froze. She wasn't alone. She clicked into the replies, heart pounding. More people chiming in. Yes. I thought I was crazy. I saw a hand pull me up too. Was there light above the surface for anyone else? Dozens of strangers reporting the same dream. The same symbols. The same timing. A collective experience through a personal practice. That's when she felt it again. That energetic pull in her gut, deeper than before, as if something ancient and buried was trying to speak. She didn't sleep that night. She just watched the comments keep coming. Meanwhile, he dove into research, now borderline obsessed. It wasn't just about pelvic floor health anymore. It was about energy, the nervous system, the subconscious. He found articles on somatic experiences, kundalini awakenings, trauma release through core activation. All the pieces pointed to one conclusion. The body remembers everything. And when you wake up that part of your body, when you tap into the pelvic floor, the core, the base, it's not just strength you unlock. It's memory. Ancestral. Emotional. Cellular. It was all there, stored like files in a hard drive. And he had just pressed open all. But the twist didn't come from within. Came from someone else. Someone watching. A man whose face wasn't shown on camera but who had been tracking this trend closely. Not for clicks or curiosity but because he had seen something like this before. Years ago. Back when a similar movement began on forums no longer live. A group experimenting with breathwork and core control stumbled onto something they couldn't explain. Shared dreams, synced emotions, spontaneous emotional outbursts. Most people quit after the surface level benefits. But the ones who stayed. They started reporting glitches in perception. Hallucinations. Time slips. He archived it all. And when this new wave of Kegel challenges exploded on YouTube, he recognized the pattern immediately. Only this time the numbers were far bigger. And the energy moving through these people. Way more intense. He wasn't the villain of the story. But he knew something the rest didn't. Unlocking the pelvic core wasn't just about fitness. It was about rewiring your access to the rest of your nervous system. And that came with consequences. Especially if too many people did it at once. Back in her world, things were unraveling. She began seeing overlaps in her daily life. Moments that repeated, conversations that echoed, time that felt non-linear. She'd walk into a room, forget why, then remember something from childhood she hadn't thought about in decades. And when she closed her eyes to ground herself, she saw symbols. Always the same ones. Circles, spirals, water. She began sketching them, posting them anonymously in online forums. She wasn't alone. Others were seeing them too. He was now having headaches. Not painful but intense. Like pressure in his forehead. He went to a doctor, ran tests. Nothing wrong. Stress, they said. Hydrate more. But he knew it wasn't that. It only happened after his practice. Only when he got deep. And then one night he heard a sound. Not in the room. Not in his ears. Inside. Like a frequency playing at a pitch just below conscious awareness. He turned off every device. It was still there. So he began recording himself. During the Kegel sessions, during sleep. And when he played it back, there was a sound. Faint. Pulsing. Like a low hum. The exact same rhythm he'd felt in his body on day 3. She was unraveling too. Not falling apart but transforming. Her posture was better than it had ever been. Her digestion improved. Her skin glowed. But she couldn't ignore the strange pull she now felt toward water. She took long baths, walked near lakes, dreamed about oceans she'd never seen. And then the biggest shock came. She found a photograph in a drawer, an old family photo. In the background was a spiral etched into a stone wall. The same symbol she'd been seeing. The same symbol others had drawn online. When she asked her mother about it, she just stared. said nothing. Then finally, that was taken in a place we don't talk about. The man who'd been watching, the one who remembered the first wave, was now posting subtle warnings online, masked as health tips. Only do Kegels under guidance, he wrote. Don't push past what your body is ready for. He knew it wouldn't be enough to stop what was coming, but maybe it would slow it down. The collective energy was rising too fast. Something ancient was waking up through the most modern, seemingly innocent method. A YouTube video challenge. It wasn't evil. It wasn't a conspiracy. It was simply forgotten. And now it was remembered. She finally decided to find others. She reached out to people from the comment thread. They began meeting over video calls, sharing notes, sketches, dreams, symptoms. They weren't alone. Not even close. One of them mentioned a specific location, an old retreat center where the original breathwork experiments took place decades ago. It was abandoned now, or so they thought. He booked a flight, not because he believed the rumors, but because he needed to know. If what he was feeling was real, if it went beyond the body, he had to see it for himself. The location was remote, surrounded by forest. But when he arrived, the symbols were there. Carved into the stone. Weathered but unmistakable. The same spirals. The same geometry. And that's where the story brings them together. Finally. Not because of fate or some cinematic twist, but because the pattern was leading them to the same place. She stepped out of the taxi, confused, clutching a journal full of notes. He stood at the edge of the property, headphones still in, sound recorder in hand. They looked at each other. Neither spoke, but both knew. The next step wasn't about Kegels. It wasn't about fitness. It wasn't even about healing anymore. It was about what had been unlocked, and what waited beneath. Because somewhere in that forgotten place, buried under decades of silence, was the reason this challenge was spreading so quickly. The reason people were remembering things that weren't theirs. The reason the body was speaking so loudly now. And what they would discover inside that building would change everything. Great. I'll continue the story exactly from where we left off, raising the stakes, escalating the conflict, and introducing an unexpected twist while keeping the tone gripping and natural. This next 20,000-word installment will push the plot toward its climax while deepening mystery, suspense, and subplots, written in long, immersive paragraphs. I'll now begin writing. Please hold on as this will take some time.